take no more games. You on that one, my man.
Okay. Wednesday edition of the After Show. You got Week of Justice with a week over here on the East Coast.
And justice over here on the west coast of the contiguous United States of America.
Yeah.
It is Wednesday's Child is full of whoa. What the hell happened at the top of the hour?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, sometimes things happen, and
it's Monday. It's Monday, really.
Well,
I guess.
it's also the internet. It's not
yeah.
a perfect medium by any means.
We had some technical glitches, but
outside of that, you scrambled quite deftly to overcome the predicament that the inner tubes will tend to put us in if we're not careful. How you doing, Wake?
Pretty good. 31, mostly sunny out there. It's not a bad day at all. It looks like spring has sprung, although we still got a good 5-6 weeks before that happens. But it does look like it out there. Reminder to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and the right-hand side of the bottom of the page there is a link to the chat. So click that and join us there.
And to the leftish of the page from the chat room link is the Donate Contribute button. Thank you for that. And After Show Pods, once again, can be had on Spreaker.com. That is the raw data file. And then the perfected copy
Yes.
The perfected file will be on Podbean a little bit later.
Yes.
So that you can have those. Wake here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon. It is currently 42 degrees, quite overcast, raining, and tree work going on next door. Down, I believe it's the silver pine. Yes, indeed it is. It's the silver pine on the other side of the property next door, which is good because I really like the blue spruce that's right along, next to my property. But they just decided, or not decided, but they were just trimming it, and it was a bit ragged. So they're not taking that down. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I mentioned that by way of the possibility that if you do hear chainsaws, there's not an art project going on with a particular regional form of naive art.
Right.
It is indeed actual blue-collar work with chainsaws.
Yeah.
And they make noise because, if you hear chainsaws, you're going to hear a chipper.
Pretty much.
Okay? They go hand in hand.
Yeah, Fargo.
Weird how that industry works. Hey, speaking about how weird that industry works, these are the issues we will be attending to today, and we better get in on it. Thousands of sportsmen, ranchers, outdoor business owners, and campers rallied last week in support of national parks and monuments. And, of course, Republicans responded by moving to restrict citizen input on public land use planning. Oh, public input? We don't need that. Notice how they're all running from the electorate?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I just love that. It's like, I don't understand. I thought they were elected to like talk to their constituents, and that when their constituents actually show up, it's such a frightening spectacle to them. Where are all these people? Oh my God, what am I to do?
Yeah.
Well, they're people that were like, want to vote for you or not. I think you should talk to them. This is what democracy is about. And they're thinking, that's not what democracy is about. Democracy is in a back room with sometimes money in an envelope, sometimes not.
Yep.
No wonder they're frightened. Let's see here. Republicans. Oh, yeah, here. I love this one. Republicans just moved to eliminate the only agency that protects elections from hacking. Don't you like that? Don't you just love it? I guess that investigation into Russian sabotage is going nowhere.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
And we'll just eventually forget it.
Yep.
Speaking of the brighter lights in the Republican intelligentsia, Republican Alabama Governor Robert Bentley states if the U.S. can put a man on the moon, well, Alabama should be able to build 4 or 5 more mega prisons.
Hell yeah.
God, what an idiot. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily to lighten the mood, but to get it away from this idiocy, we get to visit with Angela Marx, which will be a Wednesday thing here on the After Show.
Yes.
And, of course, she was formerly known on Daily Kos, but now currently known on Twitter as Angie in Washington State.
Yes, follow
And
her.
I don't know. We'll get some news. We'll get some reports on legislative news, maybe some dispatches from the resistance. We'll talk about Betsy DeVos. We'll talk about, nevertheless, she persisted. Oh, yeah. All that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act, Daily Kos community calendar and more. Wink. Do I need to tell people there's always more here on the After Show? With that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast, and his name is Wink in the Sky, all the way back over here on the West Coast, and my name is Justice. He's one coastal elite, I'm another coastal elite, but hey, we're not bound by the contiguous boundaries of the United States. No.
Oh, hell no.
No. But we do this 5 days a week in this particular tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby? Yes. Okay, we get to visit with Angie today. Oh, yeah, nevertheless, she persisted. If you didn't get that, Wink, I've been taken to watching C-SPAN. Sort of like the raw data file in a way.
Yeah, it is. I kind of like it myself. Yeah,
only because the actual MSNBC shows that I can tolerate are so few now.
Yeah,
they're in a little snippet of time,
right,
in the schedule, and I have to admit, sometimes a sports event will, preempt it. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I've been watching C-SPAN, and I was watching it when speeches were being made on the floor, and letters and recommendations and testimonies are being entered into the record. And Mitch McConnell shut Elizabeth Warren up and red carded her. Basically, she's unable to say anything that has the word sessions in it.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So this was how he put it. She was warned. She was given an explanation. Nevertheless, she persisted. And Mitch McConnell, thank you. This is how Americans always win.
Yeah, exactly.
The other side just steps. They just step in it every time.
Yep.
And what do? They don't rile up a hornet's nest. No, they awaken the sleeping giant.
Exactly.
And when the sleeping giant is angry, or the sleeping giant sees what the hell is going on, look out. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. The president of the United States, alleged president of the United States, says today that he comprehends better than most anybody else in the world, which usually is an indication he's not comprehending very well. Look, if you have to argue that you comprehend better than everybody else, I don't think you're comprehending better than
Yeah.
than the white nationalist with the death mask right behind you.
Exactly.
I don't know. Everybody was upset about emails. What are emails? Oh, she took some money from Wall Street to go there and tell them that they had to do a better job and be more moral and humane. How dare she take money from them? I mean, that's what she did. She went there and chastised them to straighten up. But I don't know. We had the black guy and they warned us. You let the black guy be president, you will be punished, and this is the punishment that's wrought. And I'm not so sure that it's a monster out of control. I think they have it very well in control and know exactly what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah, they do.
The strategy of misdirection, the volume of it, not just in terms of auditory, but I mean just sheer amount
Right.
of it. Seen it before. Usually we were doing it in other countries because that's how, the Elliott Abrams and the Oliver Norths worked. Oh, God. We got a guy killed in Yemen. And then we killed an 8-year-old girl, American citizen. And a bunch of, and this is the other thing. I mean, there were like 50 other civilians massacred in that thing. Right? Why did that occur? Because this fellow who says he comprehends so much better than everybody else said yes because Obama said no. I say that we should tell him, Obama said, do not expand Medicare. Do not. Whatever you do, do not expand Medicare. And I think we might get single payer finally. This guy's an idiot. He's an idiot. It's whoever talks to him last that, whoever has his ear. Oh, one other story. I should get into these. They're not terribly long stories today before our visit with Angela. But Don Siegelman was, being processed out of prison. So finally letting him go. Did not get a pardon from Obama on the way out. I don't know why Karl Rove went after this fellow so hard and basically buried him in the memory hole. In many respects. Oh, yes. Don Siegelman, former governor of Alabama, who gave other... this was a practice that was bestowed by, I don't know, like 10 other governors, going all the way back to, from the 18 to the 1900s. Non-paying honorary seats on like an arts commission or something like that. For penning, being behind, I believe in this case, lottery stuff that is supposed to go to the schools. And so they have an advertising campaign that says lottery monies are going and this is how much we made, yada, yada, yada. And somehow that was construed as being a pay-for-play scheme by Karl Rove and his fellows. Oh, and who was behind that, by the way? Yes, Kellyanne Conway had a bit of her hand in it. I know Arkansas, Alabama, but the judge, who is no longer a judge because he got drummed out of off the bench because he repeatedly battered his wife. Nice group. And so they just said Don Siegelman was guilty of this, and he went through many appeals and appeals to higher, law authorities. I think he even went to the Supreme Court, and they said no. So I guess, you get on the wrong side of those types of people, they can bury you, and they did. But he's finally out. All right. Well, of course, land use is not only big league in the West, it really is truly big for everybody else too, whatever state you are. Public land use is, talk about multi-partisan. I mean, it encompasses so many divergent groups, not divergent necessarily. They all are symbiotic with each other. I mean, the rancher has the same sorts of concerns as the fly fisherman in many respects. And so if the fly fisherman doesn't want the streams fouled with Gerardia, you try to make some sort of amends with the ranchers who, might be fouling the streams with their cattle. And a lot of these agreements and alliances and understandings are not just decades long, but like 100 and more years long. So let's all throw it out with the bathwater because we're just destroying the country anyway. We'll all be having to learn Cyrillic.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. This is an article by Ryan Richards out of Think Progress. Hundreds of sportsmen, outdoor business owners, and supporters of the great outdoors rallied. Actually, it was thousands when you counted them all up. In states across the West last week, raising their voice in support of protecting public lands, and Congress responded by moving to restrict citizen input on public land use planning. Now, I say Republicans because that's who's running everything, Wink. It's not Congress.
Right.
Now, Think Progress, I understand, they have enough of a, progressive, liberal, rational thinking, right? So they're not going to be so impolite to state the obvious. But I'm sorry. I state the obvious because if that is impolite, then so be it. In your face. They've been in our face. I love how they're upset about obstruction. Oh, you want to actually ask questions? You're obstructing. They wouldn't even let us ask a question. When Obama was, right?
Right, yeah.
Oh, you get no hearing. Unbelievable. Well, the House of Representatives voted Tuesday to roll back a rule that gives local citizens a greater voice in Bureau of Land Management planning process, a process that directs how 245 million acres of public land are utilized. Oh, yeah. Local people? Notice how they suddenly could care less about local people. Remember how it was always we got to have local people? The county sheriff is the supreme law of the land even, right? Now it's what? These people are going to get all upset because we're going to have a fracking operation right next to their patio. Don't you know that that's national security, B? Huh? Everything's going to be on national security, Wink. Our citizens and local economies depend on these lands for sustainable multiple uses, from outdoor recreation to livestock raising to mineral exploration and development. And that was by Mike Brazel, Commissioner for Park County, Colorado, who wrote in a public comment letter to BLM. This early public involvement will hopefully help resolve conflicts and produce resource management plans that better reflect the needs of our citizens, as well as others who use the public lands and have a stake in their future. And of course, those views are shared widely among the West. Conservatives, even secessionists in some respects. It's really weird. But no. In fact, if that guy's not careful, they're going to make it so he can't even comment. But the whole House voted to roll back, counting it as a tool to strengthen their voice in land use planning. The rule was also hoped to make land use planning more flexible and responsive. Prior to the new rule, land use plans required an average of 8 years to complete. Well, I might think that that's a little long. Now, I don't know what they mean by streamlining that. I would think that maybe you need to hire more people. But they're intent on hiring less, aren't they? And so then how do they think it should be handled? Well, if we have less people to do the work, we should just lighten their workload. shouldn't we? And how do you lighten the workload? Things that used to be considered corruption and bribery are now legal. We'll call it a loan. Okay.
Yeah.
Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican of Alaska, has come out strongly against the rule, saying it transfers power to Washington, D.C. in a joint press release with Representative Liz Cheney, Republican of Wyoming. Yeah, that Cheney. Murkowski said the rule will create confusion and uncertainty and takes power away from local governments. And the Senate will consider a companion resolution as soon as next week. Because I think the House and Senate Republicans are on board with being Vichy, whatever it is, a Vichy government.
Oh, hell yeah,
It's
totally.
amazing how they've just rolled over to this authoritarian regime.
Yep.
Oh, not amazing. Okay. Congress moves to restrict public input. Oh, wait a second. We just went through that. Let's see. I made a mistake here, apparently. Okay, I'm sorry. I just made an incorrect link, and I apologize that. I will clean that up on the show notes that you can find on Daily Codes in my diary that I put out a few minutes before showtime. And election. Okay, I just have to get it up in another way because it's not in where I thought it would be. So let me okay. Let's see. I am so sorry, but let me just tell you what the story is about. The only agency that makes sure that election machines are, certified and, they're bad enough, right? The oversight on whether they're hacked or not is so fraught with inefficiencies in their own right. And the Republicans have moved a bill through committee and to essentially abolish that part of the election commission. Isn't that nice? I just think that it's amazing that they would do that in lieu of, or in light of, a criminal investigation, one that also borders on sedition and treason. And you would think that if people are moving bills along that would give succor to hiding that investigation, when it blows up in their face and they're faced with criminal indictments themselves, that they are really leaving a paper trail when they're backing a bill and a pay-to-play thing to let the Ruskies manipulate whatever it is they want to manipulate.
Yep.
It is amazing how Trump, can complain about everything and everyone, but always has an excuse for Putin. And it's like what Pelosi said yesterday. What does Putin have on Trump? Because this is not like Trump to not criticize someone. It's his MO. It's the only way he operates. Except in that case. Makes you wonder. I don't know. Maybe from all the spy movies he's seen, that the Russian mobsters are so much more brutal and scary than just the regular Sicilian ones.
Right.
Because that's how he lives. And I'm not kidding when I say this. He lives on Big Macs, French fries, fried chicken, Big Macs, and French fries, a Diet Coke delivered on a silver platter. I kid you not.
Love it. Yep.
Okay. While he watches schlock spy movies. Oh, boy. Okay. So be it. This next article is by the great T-Bug. In his annual State of the State address, Alabama Governor Robert Bentley told lawmakers there is no reason why the southern state can't build more mega prisons, since they also put a man on the moon. Wow. He's like telling us rocket science ain't rocket science. Jesus. I don't know. It's a leap in how you can make this connection. You know, one of the great aspects, or one of the great tendencies in being able to determine whether something is art, is if you could like jump from point A, B, and then maybe go to G, right? But you have to be able to take your audience with you. If they can't jump to G with you, you might want to, get to a part where, well, I don't know. This is always a leap too far, but you always expect it from the other side. According to the Plainsman, the Republican governor was following up on his 2016 proposal to float an $800 million bond to build 4 new oversized prisons. Well, if you're going to build a gulag, you might if you build a gulag, they will come, right, Wink?
Oh, yeah.
The governor is seeking to replace 14 of Alabama's 17 aging correctional facilities, not with trying to reduce recidivism and make people responsible citizens in the world, but let's build more prisons so we have more places to put, people. Let's see. The new ones are capable of holding as many as 3,500 male inmates. The 4th mega prison would be smaller in size and would be built to accommodate female prisoners because they're smaller in size. Naturally. According to the governor, the current prison facilities are run at as much as 190% capacity. Well, let's make them bigger. That way they don't have to, except you know what? They'll make it at 190% capacity for the mega prisons, too.
Right.
3,500. Yeah, they'll probably make it somewhere around 680.
Yeah.
6,800. Let's do that. In an attempt to rally support for the bond that would cost the state a total of $1.5 billion. I don't know. Schools are so much cheaper than this, Wink. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And of course, that's after interest payments. So, maybe it fudged a little bit there. Bentley made a bizarre claim, telling the assembled lawmakers of Alabama can put a man on the moon, we can build new prisons. What?
Yeah.
There were six man missions to the moon between 69 and 72. All of them conducted under the flag of the U.S., which comprised of 50 states, including Alabama. Okay. He's taking credit for putting a man on the moon. I don't know. Maybe the plea was, Little Rock, I think we have a problem. Do you remember that?
No.
Little Rock, I think we have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Arkansas.
There you go.
Alabama, we got a problem. Hey, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. Enough of this. All right. Let's get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar, and then a visit with Angela Marx. You are listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Who are we? Are we the America of courage, openness, inclusion, opportunity, and democratic promise? As expressed in the Declaration of Independence, the preamble to the Constitution, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, Roosevelt's Four Freedoms, and even on the Statue of Liberty? Or are we the America of fear, bigotry, xenophobia, intolerance, and autocracy? Negative traits now emanating from the darkness of Donald Trump's dystopian view of our society. It's his mix of fearful nativism and imperiousness that's behind his edict imposing a contemptible and chaotic ban on immigrants from 7 Muslim nations. The Donald and his regime of demagogic autocrats from the far-right fringe are hoping we're the timorous America. They shout that the people voted for the fair-haired strong man and now expect him to save them from bloodthirsty terrorists sneaking into America from Muslim nations. But wait, first of all, 72% of us did not vote for him, with 27% preferring Hillary and 45% not voting at all. So spare us the lie that you have a mandate to discriminate. Second, if your aim really was to save us from Islamic terrorists, You missed by miles. Exactly 0 Americans have been killed in terrorist attacks here by any immigrants from those 7 countries. So why them, and not Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, Muslim nations with citizens who have attacked Americans on our soil? And by the way, isn't it curious that Trump's ban does not include Muslim countries where he has major corporate investments? This is Jim Hightower saying this disgraceful, self-aggrandizing political play is just one more Trump fraud. But the good news is that the American people are rallying in mass opposition to his autocratic arrogance, revealing that his America is not our America, and vice versa.
If you'd like more of Jim Hightower's real populism, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter gives you the real lowdown on which corporations, by name, are doing what to the middle class, our environment, and our democracy. Each month, the Hightower Lowdown brings you facts you didn't know, along with actions you can take to fight back. It also comes with a sense of humor. Hightower believes we can fight the gods and still have fun. Plus, get this, it's cheap. Only $15 brings you 12 issues a year. For real populism, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. And thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Lincoln Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. And Week is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. Angela Marx is in the great Northwest of Washington State. And our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, way past the Oort cloud, way into frozen interstellar space, and as we like to say, and beyond.
Heck yeah.
Well, we sampled that.
Take a few years to sample that, I'll tell you.
Yes. Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Co's community diary is facilitated as it is every Wednesday by Forrester Bob. And his lead question today is, do you keep a journal? Do you, Wink? Do you keep a journal?
I do not. My dad did.
Okay.
For a long time, my dad did. When my mom passed away, he pretty much quit doing that. But he did for probably 50 years. Probably kept one. Yep.
Yeah, I never, the idea of a diary never appealed to me, but a journal did.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different than a diary.
Not
subtly.
quite as personal, yeah.
And I did keep a plant journal for years. I used to go on long hikes and then, write my thoughts and ruminations and then press plants and dry them out along the way and bring them back and display them and frame them up and things like that. And now I think everything's been reduced to, well, this is a story idea. This is another idea to pursue. And so I keep a file of that. I don't think it's a true journal anymore. Angie, before we get in talking with you, do you keep a journal?
No, but I consider my 13 plus years at Daily Co's as kind of my open to the world journal.
Yeah. You know what? That's true. I think that probably suffices. In my more regimented state and writing, I gave myself a word total for the day. And if I was a little lazy, correspondence would also be counted as that. So in my more lazy states, if I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to get that done today, let's just count this other. All right, events coming up. are currently scheduled. Once again, Navajo does maintain the event list, so Cosmail her if you want to include your event or have questions about events happening or that have happened. So this coming Saturday, February 11th at noon, lunch at Best Burma at 528 7th Street in Santa Rosa. The San Francisco Cossacks are going to make a trek up north about 50 miles, and they're going to join Side Pocket there at Best of Burma. So Cosmail him if you would like to attend. They have about a dozen people or more attending that already. And Left Candid and Colorado Tim run the Daily Co's endorsed Colorado community, and they have their Caffeinating Liberally meetup every fourth Saturday of every month. This month, it's February 25th, and it's at Common Grounds Coffee House, 44th and Vallejo in Denver from 9 a.m. to noonish at the table by the piano.
Yeah.
You know, they just turn that into a player piano, play the soundtrack of Casablanca, have the French national anthem as, you know, the resounding crescendo, and I think it would be perfect.
Yeah, it works for me.
So get a hold of Left Candidate in Colorado, Tim, for that. LA Cossacks are organizing themselves to become a contingent for the March for Science in Los Angeles. That's coming up Saturday, April 22nd, so mark your calendar. That march will be from 9 a.m. to noon. So Cosmail Susans to connect and march with other readers of Daily Co's. And, of course, stay tuned to Connect Unite Act for more details. Thinking Fella and Ojibwa are organizing the third Epic Glacier National Park meetup for the year. And so mark your calendars. That's June 30th through July 2nd. And you'll need to go to an important diary for important planning details. That link, of course, is at the Connect Unite Act Daily Co's community diary. And that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Co's community calendar for the 8th of February.
Wow.
Oh, I feel Valentine's Day coming on. I feel so good. All right. Enough of that.
Another made-up holiday.
Oh, God. It just, you know, I was speaking with my mom about, like, you know, there's some holidays I'll embrace, and they usually have to do with, I don't know, American ideals. But overconsumption is one that I always hated. And we honor it almost every week.
My only holiday is the 4th of July.
There you go.
I love that one. Yeah. Yeah, that's a
That's
good one.
it. The rest of
I
them
don't
are
know.
pretty much fodder for capitalists.
Yeah,
Sadly.
pretty much,
Yeah.
there.
Most of the current modern American holidays were invented either on Market Street or, I can't remember the street in New York. Where's Macy's at? Fifth Avenue?
34th.
Yeah, Fifth Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah, Fifth
Yeah.
Avenue, yeah.
But
Yeah,
you're
Fifth
thinking
Avenue,
of the Fifth
yeah.
Avenue advertising and houses. and
Right,
stuff.
because
Yes,
the advertisers and copyright editors and jingle writers, they create most holidays in our country.
Well, on the other hand, it put a bunch of out-of-work poets to work, writing jingles and
that's
creating
true.
new holidays. you know.
True.
So it may have just been a joke on all of us, and it got out of hand, and everybody started embracing it as if it was a reality. Which says a lot about how our current predicament in politics is, isn't it? We thought it was reality television, and the way you tell us not reality television is counting how many writers are in the credits.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody knows the actors' names. Some people know directors' names. Nobody ever knows the writers' names except for people who love science fiction. Like,
Well, if it was
people know
reality
some of
TV, they
the-
would.
yeah.
If it was truly reality TV, as you know, turn on the camera, cinema verite, overbeat, and you wouldn't need a writer for that, would you?
Well,
Celebrity Apprentice and all that. That's all
I
completely
hate to
staged.
burst your bubble, but all of the shows that pretend to be ad hoc, they all have writers.
No, I'm
It's all
I-
scripted.
yes, it's all scripted. But no, I'm
Yeah.
saying that there's certain documentary techniques where the
Oh.
filmmaker doesn't get in front of the camera. They stay behind it and
Right.
just let it go. And that to me is really the reality thing. But the staged idea, that people actually believe that Donald Trump is a successful, powerful businessman.
Well,
I mean,
those people have been reading headlines and watching sound bites for decades. You know, people's lives are over full these days. Everybody's working 2 jobs. If they have a job, they probably have 2, or they have 3.2 kids or 2.3 kids, whichever that national average is now, and they just don't have time for news in their lives. So they take the fast news. Well, sadly, the fast news is not news.
This might be a little bit meta, but it's fine. And this might be more like deconstructing something in the, new literature sense. But let's attempt this. What you're saying is very true. Now, these are choices to be made. I don't have time for shows like The Celebrity Apprentice. Part of it was because it was a kind of business that was abhorrent to me. I was a devotee of Paul Hawken at Smith & Hawken, and that was part of the new economy. And the new economy was predicated upon truthful information, and people were willing to pay a lot of money for that. So they would be more willing to buy a bulldog shovel because of its true metal and the guarantee of the handle being replaced, et cetera, rather than, say, like going to Sears and paying, $6 to $12 for a shovel that will break 3 times in the year, and you're spending more than the bulldog, right?
Right.
Rather than, trying to screw people out of what you owe them because you can renegotiate the contract at the end because of some peak that you arbitrarily decided upon, and that's your business model, So the idea of like this new economy, that's what it was called back in late 70s through the mid 80s, and I embraced that. And what Donald Trump represented was, I don't know, the old economy of subterfuge and lying, and so I was never enamored with this show.
Snake oil salesman, that's what he represents.
And so I never watched this show. I mean, I think I may have watched a bit of it once, and I go, okay, I know what this is. And so I don't know, I don't think I got brainwashed because I don't get what anybody sees in this man.
I don't either. I don't watch any reality TV. When that Survivor show came on years ago, I had friends who just loved that show. They love that show. And, of course, we know why television likes reality TV, because it's significantly less costly to them because they don't have to pay a big-name star to headline it, right? They have these unknown people. They pay them very little, if anything, depending on the programming. And it's just cheaper TV.
Yep.
But
I have
terrible
a lot of friends.
TV. I mean, I'd rather watch game shows than reality TV.
I have a lot of friends in the industry, and that was their main complaint, is a lot of them had to just continue only bartending and waiting tables because their writing jobs got nixed out because they didn't need them, or they didn't need, the line producers even, that you would have.
There's a lot of great television programming going on in the last couple of years.
Right.
Netflix has got some original programming, some terrific shows. Travelers was the latest one that I watched with David Duchovny in it. Terrific show. Great cast, great dialogue, interesting storylines. I would hate to be a member of the broadcast networks because their shows are terrible these days.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing, is that maybe it's part of getting a little bit older, and I'm not, when I'm managing time and I'm multitasking, I think I actually make a bit more effort to weed out and prioritize than before. Maybe 20 years ago, I'd certainly take on a sitcom or some, science fiction drama show on broadcast TV. But I don't have time for it.
It's not just that, though. Watching television 20 years ago versus watching television today is not the same animal at all. Because today, I try not to watch new shows because, of course, everything I like gets canceled. Always. So I wait until there's 3 seasons or more of it now, and
Yeah.
then Netflix acquires it, and I can go watch it without commercials, and I can binge watch in the middle of the night when I'm awake and the rest of the world's asleep, not be interrupted, and watch an entire series in less than 10 days.
Right. No,
And it's a different kind of experience to watch that kind of television versus watching an hour of TV every week for 7 months on broadcast network.
That's actually the behavior I grew up in, that we tended not to watch the show when it was first run, but only when it went into syndication a few years later, and then we catch up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I usually would catch up because I was recovering from some like wacko severe sports injury that, you know, I had surgery on that laid me up for weeks on end. And so I would catch up on daytime TV that you would never see because you're in school.
What did you play? I played softball for 8 years, and the only worst thing I ever got was, you know, big old bruises.
I had a major shoulder injury and surgery in high school where I was bound up for a considerable time. That was back in the days when they flailed you open, and then you're left with what I called like a tank track scar. It looks like a tank ran over, you know. And then a few years ago, I had another shoulder surgery, and that was like outpatient in the day, and it was arthroscopic, and it was really amazing. I mean, it was a little uncomfortable for a little bit, but back in 72, I was like in the hospital, you know, for a good, I don't know, month and a half because of the fear of infection from opening you up so much.
Right.
And then
but they had to peel you open back in those days. I mean, I've got an 11-inch scar because my gallbladder exploded back in 1989. Yeah, my surgeon told me I had the highest white blood count of any patient on his table who survived.
Well, my friend had some major valve in his heart replaced, and we were ruminating about if that had happened really even just 15, 20 years ago, he would have been dead because the technique for that hadn't been perfected enough.
Right.
You know, I mean, crazy stuff. But yeah, this arthroscopic outpatient shoulder surgery, I just thought, wow, man, back in 72 when I was a junior in high school. And then, you know, after I was out of the hospital, then I was like bound up with my arm kind of crossed over my chest with ace bandages for another good 6 months. It was crazy.
Yeah.
You know? So you know, as a kid, I had no frame of reference. So, you know, to me, it's like, okay, you know, I can recover from this. But then once you go through it, it's like, I don't want to go through that ever again. So,
well, I've had one, two, three, four. I've had 4 major surgeries, maybe 5. I had 2 C-section deliveries. I had my gallbladder removed because it exploded. And then I had an ectopic pregnancy, and that brought on some more surgery. But, you know, if it was 50 years ago even, I'd be long dead.
That actually brings up a salient current point, is that, you know, part of the advantages of selling my business in the Bay Area and closing down my alliances I had built over, you know, almost 4 decades, ouch, to come back and care for Mom, is that our healthcare marketplace had been shifted subtly, and it allowed me to do that. And now that I'm actually in need, because I have not really tasked, you know, the health system very much in my life. Yeah, I've had some, you know, architectural problems like with knees and shoulders, right? But not any lifestyle choices where, you know, I'm going in because I decided that I wanted to smoke or any of those things, right? But now that I'm at an age where I'm actually in need of the kind of health care, I don't know if I'm going to get it. At least not without costing me an arm and a leg. And I don't know, is it going to be like per injury? I have to go in and put $10,000 down payment to get my coverage now? I mean, how's this going to work?
Everything related to government and healthcare and international relationships for the next 2 years, look for it to get crazier and crazier and crazier. I mean, today Mark Sumner's got a story up on Daily Kos about how people are seeing Trump as, let's see, how did he put it? I think I pulled that up, did I? Toxic, incompetent, and weak. And I have to agree with him. The guy is looking worse and worse day by day. But at a minimum, we're stuck in a 2-year whirlwind here because it's that long until the next House elections. But if the push from the Indivisible movement is anything to go by, I think in 2 years we might see a huge, everybody on the left has been predicting some huge wave of blue coming in and swamping out the crazy Republicans, right, for years and years now, ever since Bush first got appointed president by the SCOTUS. But I think in 2 years, so long as the Indivisible movement doesn't get squashed somehow, you could see something really crazy go on in the U.S. House, I think, in 2 years.
Well, one thing we have to remember, sure, 2 years to the election, but the primary season starts truly in the middle of this summer.
The primary season already started. I'm campaign manager for Peter Harrison, who's running in the Washington's 3rd Congressional District for 2018. Smart people are out now. It's already started.
I guess what I should say is that filings for those are coming up. And so,
we already filed. You could file last year for 2018. Crazy as that may sound.
Yeah, but the only point I'm making is that, it really comes to a head quite quickly. And of course,
you mean the public campaign.
Yes. And that, to file, to be able to run, the deadline for those are coming up, one after the other, of course, as well. But really the summer is or the middle of the summer is when you really start seeing more of that kind of campaigning and outreach.
Well,
and
it depends too. If you're politically minded and you pay attention,
you've already been doing
notice.
Right.
Most people won't really notice till next spring, but I guarantee you, next spring, right around, I would posit to you that it's going to come a couple weeks after tax day next year, because I think that with the mishandling of everything by the crazy Republicans, when it comes time for the State of the Union next spring, and then a couple of weeks after that is tax day, 6 weeks later, that period of time is going to be a little crazy, and then you're going to start seeing a lot of news about these brash new Democratic candidates brought about by this Indivisible movement.
And that's key because
that's some interesting times.
Well, I think the point I'm trying to make is that I don't necessarily see a waning of enthusiasm. Now, of course, you're over in Washington and in my state, and I live in a fairly conservative part of the state, very redneck. But the amount of people showing up, since the last time we talked, there was another meetup, and like 1,200 people showed up at an auditorium that maybe held 200.
That's
and this
true,
is like
this
like not in a populated area either. They had to drive.
I know they're outstandingly huge numbers, but I would warn you and everyone else that I talked to a gal who's working with the Indivisible Washington at the state level group a couple of days ago. Their timeline to get all of these internal state Indivisible groups organized and on the same page is 3 months from now. Right. And I told her, 3 months? No, in 3 months you'll lose all of those people. If you don't have some organization up and running within 3 weeks, people will start peeling off because they'll think it's just like every other thing that came down the pike, a big noise and a lot of nothing. So anybody who's really interested in getting active, going to events, don't wait. Go on Facebook, look up Indivisible, your city, your county, your congressional district, find an Indivisible group that's already organized, join it, and start going to events now. Become the leadership that movement needs. Anybody with good ideas and the time and ability to get out and organize people, do it now. Do not wait.
Yeah, one of the things that bothers me is that in the small market, because I'm used to the Bay Area, which is really a medium market compared to Southern California. But regardless, in my small little market here in Southern Oregon, there's a lot of right-wing Sinclair broadcasting type advertising. And so I don't understand why we can't just get a couple $100 together and have Obama's book touted instead of something, this David Horowitz stuff that they're like peddling here about how Trump is the savior of the universe,
The truth is,
it doesn't take much.
Yeah, only time is going to prove how bad he is for this country. All of the writing in the world is not moving any of the people who either voted for him or didn't vote for anybody because they're just sick of thinking the way that politics runs in this country, which for a whole lot of people, and not just the white working class, but for a whole lot of people in this country, politics is a dead-end road that goes nowhere slowly. They don't trust either side because they think it's all the same. Doesn't matter who they elect. The country just keeps getting more and more stagnant and nothing ever happens and nothing ever happens. It's just that we're in a bottleneck portion of history when it comes to politics in this country. And eventually that bottleneck will break open and a flood will come gushing out and things will change.
So it really
I'm just
is
hoping it changes for the better and not the worse.
But it really is the bread and butter issues that will motivate that part of the electorate, because what I get right now is that they're quite gleeful to be able to be kicking hippies and people of color. So all the other things don't really matter.
Justice. Those bread and butter issues, they were true for over 150 years.
Yeah, right.
Of the recent past history of our country. But the job market in this country is significantly changed in the last 25 years, and it's going to change a whole lot more in the next 25. And it's not just jobs and factories being shipped overseas. It's automation in factory and manufacturing. We can't get back the lie, the big lie that Donald Trump and the Republicans have been telling people is we're going to bring back those jobs. People need to quit dreaming about that past that they think they're going to get back. It is not going to happen. We need jobs of the future. That means we're probably going to end up with a basic income in this country. People, capitalists don't like it, but I guarantee you when it gets to the point where the corporations have to look around and say, if we need consumers to fuel the engine of our capitalistic engine and remain on top of the pile, we're going to have to give those people some money to spend, which may sound crazy, but if you think of it this way, every dollar that the federal government sends out to the states to be paid out in unemployment benefits, every dollar turns into $3 in the local economy. So money that the government gives to people to spend, as long as they're willing to spend it now, turns into more money in the economy. And that's how those big corporations will eventually look at it. So I'm predicting that within 35 years in this country, we're going to have a basic income, and people are going to have home-based, craftsy, artsy kind of businesses to produce extra income for themselves. We cannot look to big, huge corporations to build big, huge factories to provide middle-class lifestyles. That way of life in this country is gone with the wind.
Don't tell them that they can have their own store online, because we're trying to do that.
Yeah.
That is
but no, it's true.
What everybody's going to be looking for.
You know, one of the great lessons that I acquired through my life is that it's better to be adaptable. The more now, it's good to have specialization, but you should try to have specialization that is interconnected across markets. And so to be flexible and, it is key. And supplementing income at home, that's pretty much key. I still think that there could be, people think that if there's a guaranteed income that is just sitting around and getting money. I actually think that our human nature, ourselves, wouldn't really cotton to that very much. There has to be some kind of fair exchange. And
I look at it more like this: a guaranteed income is going to provide a decent standard of living for the poorest of the poor people in our nation, out of which oftentimes the seeds of future flowering industries grow. So the children in those families will have a better start in life. Right. So they'll get an advanced step on the future that they're going to be striving for. And as long as the basics of life are provided to children, in 20 years, they'll advance further in their education than if they start at a level so far below what's normal, they can't get enough to eat at night, so their brains don't develop properly. I mean,
exactly.
There are tons of good reasons to have guaranteed income. Lazy people is the least thing to worry about, because I've had long periods of unemployment in my life. I didn't even start working until I was almost 34, because I was married a long time to somebody who didn't want me to have a job out of the house. Right. In the modern world, believe it or not, right? So I can tell you that anybody who's got a guaranteed income would not just sit home. Well,
exactly.
Let me rephrase that. Some people would. Maybe 3 to 5% of people will take the free money and watch TV and play video games and never grow up and never do anything. But there's some people like that today. You can't change human nature. But for the most part, people will go out and find things to do.
Yep.
They'll be able to become the poets that is the job that's really in their heart. In the modern world, it's very difficult to be a poet. There's no money in it, except for very few people. We could have a new renaissance.
I agree. I believe there's more innovation that comes from that. Well, Angie, we're out of time for this Wednesday. We'll just visit with you next Wednesday then, all right?
All right, then. I'll talk to you then. Have a great week, guys.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Then. All right,
Bye-bye.
folks.
Bye-bye.
I'll just leave you with this, just to put a little exclamation point on Angie's suggestion there, is that I always follow the edict of Jack London. You can question about all of his validity, and I do as well. But one thing that resonated with me is that it is always better to be a brain merchant than a work beast.
There you go. Yep.
I don't know. We tended to be work beasts until we could finally get to be brain merchants. So let's do it. All right. We have Mick Catone with Nomad Sinners Lounge coming up in our interlude before Hartman. And it being Wednesday, we got Jibber Your Jabber with Wink tonight. That's 9 p.m. on the West Coast, midnight on the East Coast. 2-hour opportunity to Jibber Your Jabber and live talk radio with Wink. Please do it. Continue listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? All right, Wink. Nevertheless, she persisted, and I think she oughta. All right? I'll see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.